Warning. This podcast is about to open the sealed section of spirituality. Hey you, yeah you, we see you, you divine human being.
And we are calling you to come home.
We are ready to talk about the real shit. We're going to get real about life as a divine human being.
The good, the not so great, spirituality and taboo. Divinely Human is the podcast that's all about what it means to be human in a spiritual context.
We know it's not just about being spiritual, it's about being human too.
And that means changing poopy nappies and channeling angels.
Sometimes even at the same time. It's time for us to stop making other people's noise our own soundtrack of life.
Let's make some waves together so that we can all ride them together and create deep resonance, a sense of home in this crazy world.
Pour yourself a coffee
or a glass of wine if that's your potion,
and sit down with your new favorite spiritual sisters
as we go on a journey together into what it means to be
a divine human being
on this spiritual journey. Hello and welcome to the Divinely Human podcast. I am your co-host, Aleisha.
And I am Tanita.
And we are looking forward to this chat today. It has been a very interesting few weeks. So we actually just hit record. We were like, okay, stop the conversation. Let's record from now because we always do this. It's almost like we start to just really have that deep heart to heart and that unraveling right before we even press record. So we're like, stop, let's do it now.
Yes.
We were kind of, I guess, we were speaking about how we both are and the fact that we are currently moving through Virgo season and how challenging that can be sometimes, especially when you're someone, even myself being a Virgo, I still, and being it, like it's a mutable sign as well, but I am still very not comfortable with change and shifting in my life, and I don't cope. It takes me longer to actually cope with change and shifts that even when I create them myself. A lot of the time I'm like, fuck, why did I do that? So I'm interested to see where you're at and how you're moving through it, how you're finding it, what's coming up, and just how you're feeling into this Virgo season.
Yeah, so funny you say that because when you were saying that, I was like, for me, it's like I can deal with controlled change, but like uncontrollable change, I'm like, too much. But I feel that restructuring energy so big. And it's interesting because I don't have any major Virgo placements. I've got Virgo in the 11th house, no planets, no major aspects. But the restructuring that wants to come through for me is around my business and, around the relationships that I have. And so it's interesting watching that all come up to the surface. And I've just been riding this wave of like, okay, there needs to be change. I know there has to be for me to reach my next limit, but also feeling on the back end of that, like anxiety and overwhelm with how is that going to look and wanting to control that outcome. I think the really hard thing about Virgo season is the fact that we know change is upon us. We know where in our life we can restructure and bring these plans into place, but the outcome is not finalized, or we don't have all of the steps. And that is so scary. So for me, it's a major season around trusting the process and trusting that I'm good, even if I have these crazy emotions, right? Mm-hmm. Something that I saw last week, I'm not sure if we even talked about it, but someone posted and we were talking about manifesting, and she's like, you don't have to be in a good mood all the time to bring money into your business. Like it doesn't just work like that. And that's really what's being anchored in for me at the moment. But what about you?
Yeah. I mean, you don't always have to be high vibe to bring through abundance, hey? Mm-hmm. I've been the same. I've been really stressed out, really uncomfortable, you know, I feel like it's so silly sometimes because we think when we're entering our sun season that we think it's going to be this majestic period of time where you're just at home and at ease and like, oh my goodness, I'm so comfortable because this is Virgo season. And for me, it's just not because I feel like it really pushes me to face the changes that I wouldn't otherwise change or shift. It's kind of like staring in the mirror and looking at your higher self reflected back at you. And your higher self is saying, you need to make these changes right now because you're not actually going to be content or comfortable unless you do that. It's something really interesting I saw the other day too. An astrologer that I am friends with, she did this post about Virgo and what it actually means, like Virgo, the Virgin, and how, society views it, like what society views the Virgin as, and they think that it is withholding, from life, from sexual activity, for all of the above. It's like the retaining or withholding from it. But she actually looked up the definition of it, and it was operating from a place of sovereignty. And that hit me. That there really hit me and restructured it in my brain in a way that I felt empowered and also kind of a little bit more comfortable with the fact that, yes, I know that there are shifts and changes that need to happen right now. And it's going to be really uncomfortable. But in doing that, that is me exercising, operating from a place of sovereignty in its essence. I found that really interesting. And it also made me feel a little bit more at ease with the fact that I have been feeling a lot of anxiety and I haven't been coping with a lot of the changes that I have self-initiated during this time. And that's okay. Because I know now that deep down, I'm acting in my highest accord. I'm kind of acting from that expanded self almost, and that it's going to be okay. So I have felt a lot of ups and downs. I've had like, a few days at a time where I felt so jarringly depressed and anxious and not wanting to leave the house. And then other days I'm fine, but it's been a wild ride to say the least.
A wild, wild, wild ride. I totally feel you. And I think, like we were just talking before, like sometimes we get so caught on the high vibe kind of state that we are meant to be in. And it's just not the truth of our reality. And I think this season teaches us more than any other to hold on and ride the wave and go with it. And I love that perspective of being a sovereign being. And it's such a synchronicity because last night I was reading some post that came up. It was like one of those, how on Instagram now you can see posts that you're not even following from creators you're not even following. It was someone like that. And they were posting about celibacy and they were saying, I'm not doing this to withhold my sexual desires. I'm actually doing it to put me in a better position to choose who I share my energy and my body with and make that distinction really, really clear within my system. And I was like, wow, that's really cool. And I can see that link up too, because Virgo season teaches us where are we still holding on to things, systems, relationship processes, ways of life that are actually out of alignment with you, with your truth and with your true desires. And it's a freaking hard lesson to learn because you're not just unweaving from this life, you're unweaving societal things, generational things, like things from your parents. It's so much unweaving, but I love this season because I love a good spring clean. I'm like the first one to rip out all of my wardrobe and chuck it all back in like fresh.
I
So
feel like you would be.
yes, I honestly love it. But I totally hear you with the anxiety and just the wild emotions that are coming through. And
Mm,
I think this is a reminder that that doesn't mean anything about you, right? It's an emotion, it's an experience, but
yeah.
it's not a part of you fully. Mm.
Yeah. And to make that distinction that, yes, sometimes anxiety is anxiety and we can overreact, but also being hyper aware of something when you're moving through change to a certain level is how we actually deal with it.
Yeah.
Some people are built to deal with change and that rapid shift of their environment and their life. And other people just get so over, like myself, get so overly sensitized. And it is like this, like even the sound of my kids at the moment it's been too much. I've just had to like completely leave the space. Because I felt like I've been a lot harder on them because of my overstimulation that I'm feeling at the moment from everything. But I guess, as you said, I can see the hidden gems in Virgo season and Virgo energy. I mean, we're very cutthroat. We kind of just like say it how it is. We try not to sugarcoat stuff and we're like, okay, we'll get over it, And at times, yes, we do lack empathy because we're like, why can't you just move on? Why can't you just get over it, Um, but I can see the value of having this transition stage and this like buffer that is pushing us slowly towards this, like the changes that we actually need to implement in our life. Is sometimes we need the tough love. And I feel like Virgo is great at tough love.
Yes.
As long as we know that we're safe, that the people we love are safe, and that everyone's, we don't want to cause malice, or we don't want to, people to be feeling like they're not safe or secure or, looked after or whatever. Apart from that, we're like, you've got this, just fucking do it. Like, you need to do this. Which is funny because everyone in my family literally comes to me. If they need advice, I'm like the person. And at times in my life, I felt such like a pressure of that as well, because I'm like, why can't you just call like the other sister, but in saying that, I do see the value in having that sort of energy where you're like, okay, it's time to face this.
It's such a grounded energy too that a lot of other signs really need, where you're going to get the truth, but you're going to get it in a way that is pushing you towards actual growth and expansion and like an evolution. So, yeah, I totally hear you with that. And I think when we are going through these really big changes, it's so hard to do the little things. Like what you were talking about with your kids and the noise, like I feel that. I feel that so much. Like I avoided just like even having like brushing my hair or doing the washing, like all of that stuff is just like it's like too much at the moment, when you're going through these major changes in business and there's so much to do. It's just it can be really a lot and overwhelming, and I think we have to be so easy on ourselves and remember it's just a season, it's not going to be forever. And I think this is why having support around you is so important. Like each and every day, I am reminded why it's important to be in spaces that do support you because, I don't have a lot of mum friends, right? So to hear you say that, I'm like, oh, I'm not the only one who's like, doesn't want to hear fucking Baby Shark for the 15,000 times today. Turn it off. And no, I will not make you another piece of toast. Like, it's so it can be so isolating at times, but this is why I love social media. This is why I love connecting. And this is why I love business, because you can create these spaces if you don't actually have them, right? Like, and this is something we're both working on at the moment, is rearranging our businesses in a way that supports us even more, because we're realizing with every passing day just how incredibly important our time is and our energy. And I speak for myself, but I know you will resonate with this. Like, I don't ever want to share from a place of not having energy or frustration. Like, I'm so done with packing myself to the brink and then not having any energy left for myself, you know?
Yeah, I feel you. I feel you. And also making sure that we're getting like the exchange is there as well for that time and the energy. And I know we've spoken about this on other previous podcasts. I'm not sure if it was the last one or the one before this, but we were speaking about like honoring our worth and making sure that we are, you want to be able to know that you're going to get up and get out of bed, even if you don't feel like it, for the exchange that you have energy wise and, monetary wise. It's so funny that you brought that up again, because literally 24 hours before I launched my new offerings last night, I was like, what am I doing? Like, why did I lower the price of this? And like, I'm actually still worth, like, my knowledge and my energy is worth more. So I was like, fuck this. And then changed it all and actually released them with a higher price exchange than what I originally was going to, because I had that last minute thought, and you were in the back of my head too. You're like, are you going to get out of bed on a shitty day and turn up with full energy for this exchange? And I was like, no. No, I'm not. So I changed it. And yeah, like, it's just such a good reminder that, that uncomfortability and that fear is just a little gateway to move through. And in doing that, it does bring abundance, and it brings also, like, I have so much more respect for myself too, in like going through with these changes and allowing myself to ride this wave. I felt like I've learned so much more appreciation and respect for myself. And it's like honoring yourself on a whole new level.
Yeah. Yes. Can we take a minute of celebration? Because also, you sold out all of those spaces within 15 minutes. Like, not only did you raise your prices and like fully commit to yourself, but you were shown that you have created a really beautiful business that is so much more than a number, right? Like, it's so much more. And I think we as business owners can get caught up in the numbers because we are taught to watch the numbers, make sure they increase, really track the number. But as a soul-centered business, it's so much deeper than the number. Money, yes, is incredibly important, but it's the energy behind money. It's why you're bringing money in. And it's awesome to watch that shift for you. And I hope that like inspires so many more people to not chase the number, but actually chase the energy. And that has helped me so much, really focusing on what's going to make me get out of bed. And it's not necessarily about the number, it's about how I feel in receivership of that number and how I want the other person to feel when I'm fully showing up for them. So, yay, celebrating you. That's incredible.
Thank you. That means so much coming from you. I love you. And honestly, I wasn't expecting that to happen either. I was like, here we go. And then everyone messaged me and they were like, I missed out. Like, I'm sorry. That was just such a beautiful, that was a moment of kind of recognition of, especially the fact that I changed the exchange last minute. That was a big confirmation to me that I had honored myself and how far I've come with my work on honoring myself and respecting myself, and that self-love even has come into it. I've been really into the self-love lately. I have been, and I'm feeling such a shift with it as well. Really interesting. But I've been like buying myself flowers every week.
I love that.
Just because like it makes me feel good. I've been doing lots of mirror work because I've struggled so much with my like my perception of me and my body, especially after having kids and stuff. And like something, I think this is also a Virgo thing too. Like we're so frightened of getting old. we're like, I'm literally in the mirror, like, I'm like, am I getting a fine line? You know?
Oh my gosh, I had no idea.
Oh, we're so fucking vain. We're so fucking vain. Shit, truth bomb. But yeah, so just doing a lot of work around that and just accepting, self-acceptance of where I'm at and like the changes that are happening and doing lots of mirror work and actually forgiving myself when I'm too hard on myself too has been like a really big thing for me lately. And I'm feeling it finally come through, that repercussion of just loving on myself more, you know? And it's so hard too because I mean, we're shifting the trajectory of the convo right now, but we're going to go with it. But like my partner's love language is definitely not words of affirmation, and it's definitely not touch. Like his love language is like, oh, I just unstacked the dishwasher, or I've just gone and picked up dinner for everyone here. Like it's like what's it called? Acts of service.
Yeah.
or like another thing is, and he's like, I love him for it, but he's like, I'm gonna work 19 days in a row for us. Oh hell.
You're like, but where are you?
So we kind of clash on that, but like it's been such a journey of me trying, and I'm not there yet. By all means, I am not there yet. I'm still find myself after a while turning around and saying, why don't you love me? I feel so loved. Which is
Story
funny.
of my life.
Yeah. And I'm like, well, he does. That's just not how he expresses it. And it's actually up to me to feel loved, as important as it is, like as long as there's trust and loyalty and understanding between us.
Yeah.
And commitment, then it's actually not up to him. And like, Jesus Christ, this is so hard to say this out loud because I'm like, no, but it is actually not his job to make me feel worthy or loved. So in doing these like little self-love things lately, I'm feeling like that's slowly healing for myself. It's so hard, honestly.
So hard. Go
So hard.
It's so hard. I totally hear you. Oh, it's like for me, it's been around like releasing the whole like savior complex, you know, like I need to be saved or I need someone to look after me, like hello daddy issues. But like and this has been why I bought a mirror as well, like looking at myself and actually building up that self-worth and respect within myself has been a game changer for me too. And it's so funny because we've never even talked about this. So the fact that we're both doing this, like in our own practices behind the scenes, is so funny. I love that. But yeah, I agree. And I I want my partner to be able to show me love, but you're so right. Like, it's not their job to make you feel loved. And I think about this when I think about like teaching people how to read the Akashic Records. It's like, even if you got someone to say, you're doing a great job, like you channeled that for me. If you don't believe that within yourself, you will never be able to fully receive that. And I feel like that is the same with love and self-appreciation and self-respect. If you don't have that doorway open already within your body, it's not gonna be opened by anybody else but yourself. So
Mm.
yeah, I love that you're doing that for yourself. And this is such a Virgo thing to like go get flowers and like feel really beautiful and be in your environment. And I love that because
A maiden.
yeah, yeah. Like we have to recognize, and I think this is about having some self-awareness too, like the way that you receive beauty and appreciation and lift your energy up is so important. And you know what? Like what was coming through the other day was, oh my God, just kicked my computer. Was the fact that if we like business wise, like if we don't feel confident and happy and good within our body, we're never going to fully show up. Well, I know for me, I'm never going to fully show up. If I don't love myself and I don't respect myself and I don't want to show my face on social media, it's going to be really hard for me to talk about my services, talk about my business, talk about why I'm here. So if it feels like, you know, weird to be putting yourself first, like it's so important for the growth of your business, you know?
Yes, yes. And I've noticed the last few weeks that the way that I'm showing up is more amplified and electric. And
Yeah.
I think that that is that like honoring myself and like actually showing myself love and appreciation and just kind of loving on myself. I think that is a huge part of that because I've had people just randomly drop into my inbox and they're like, something about you. You're different. You're just like more magnetic. Like you actually look like more vibrant or something. They're like, what skincare are you using? I'm like, literally, like, just, I don't know, and I think that when we show ourselves that love and nourishment on the inside, it does show in how we project ourselves out into the world. And even like physically, on a physical level, like you look vibrant, you look brighter, because you are. And I mean, like, love is like the highest octave of energy, right?
Mm.
Feeling that within yourself, like, of course, that's going to show, like, on a physical level, on an energetic level, like, everything's going to come in and you're going to be radiating that octave out to the world and it's going to hit people in the face and they're going to be like enthralled with it. um, so I find that really interesting too, and also such an amazing tool that I've recently discovered. I'm like, wow, this is amazing. This is actually amazing.
Yeah.
Um, it's just so beautiful to be able to show yourself that. But also, I'm really enjoying like just living life in more of a cycle. Like I've just the last probably year and a half, I've gotten more into following like the wheel of the year and the Sabbats and the cross quarterly days, and all of that is predominantly ritual to honor yourself and where you're at. And I think that that also helps so, so much too in our energy overall and how we're showing up. Because ever since I started sort of following that and I'm celebrating and, sitting in ritual every time we move through that different wheel at like time at that point where the wheel sort of clicks over the year, I'm finding myself more and more connected, not even to the outside world, well, like, yes, to the earth, but like to myself in a way.
Yeah.
It's really interesting.
I love that. And it just anchors for me the belief that we really are an extension of Mama Earth and we are cyclical beings, like, of course. So it's a great invitation to me to work with the cycles in a deeper way. Because I feel the same, like having a lot of water in my chart, I actually need that earth connective energy. And my Venus is like in Taurus. So I love the earth vibe. I want it all. Like bring it to me. But yeah, I love that. We'll have to brainstorm on another podcast, maybe about different ways we can connect via ritual and stuff. That'd be really fun.
Yeah, well, we have Ostara coming up on the 23rd of this month, so in a few weeks. So I feel like I don't know, anyone who's listening, if you'd like some ideas on what you can do during the spring equinox, like we should really talk about that.
Yeah.
And when you said about having a lot of water in your chart, just then all I could think about, I don't know, have you seen that reel that Drew Barrymore posted where she's like, whenever you can, sign and run in the rain?
That's literally me. Literally me. Every time it rains, I'm like, I remember when I first started my spiritual awakening and it was raining outside, I've never felt such a deeper cleanse than standing out in the rain. Like it was like inner child unlocked and like full. Yeah, it was really beautiful.
Such
Like makes me cry. Yeah.
And you actually do give me very strong like Drew vibes, like just personality wise, like so like that nurturing, like just like wanting to help everyone, like just, which is so beautiful.
Her.
But I do understand the need to really ground down into that earth energy, because I know that so many people think that earth energy is just like this gentle earth, Mama Gaia, but it's not. There's like a masculine intensity to that sometimes it's kind of like grounded, but like in a tough love way. Like I just think of it as like an iron anchor.
Yes. Yes.
We need that sometimes, because if you're an air sign, you're literally going to float away to another planet. And if you're a water sign, you're also going to float away and get lost in the emotion and like the upheaval of everything, like the tide coming in and out. Like sometimes you just need to fucking get on the shore and step out of the water sometimes and just anchor down, because it can be really emotionally draining for one, and it actually makes it really difficult to regulate your autonomic nervous system as well, like being in that tide of push and pull constantly and taking in, like you guys are so intuitive in the way of like how everyone's feeling, but not only do you feel it too. So like taking that on constantly is a lot.
Yes, literally. Literally. That's why Friday and Saturday night, you will not find me at the club. You will find me at home with a bag of popcorn watching a movie by myself, because your girl cannot handle. And I always felt so bad about that when I was growing up. I felt so bad about the fact that every time I would go out in big social environments that I would got so panicked to the point where I'd have to leave and I just wouldn't enjoy myself. But as I've grown older and deepened my spiritual practice, now I know how to protect my energy. But some days you just know, right? Like you just know today you just have to let the walls down and just not interact with anybody else's energy but yours and Mama Earth. But yeah, and that's why I love astrology, like because you can really learn about the ways to work with your own energy system. And I love looking at astrology like this is not what's set in stone, but you can utilize the different energies in the zodiacs to support you or enrich you or expand you. And what you have as your sign is it's just your foundation, right? You can always open it up or expand into it. So yeah, I love astrology so much.
I find that it provides the space for me to actually look at what I would previously look at as a flaw and actually view it from this scope of, okay, this is part of like my blueprint, but also it allows me to forgive myself so much. There's so much forgiveness when you unravel your soul blueprint in that way. And then you're kind of like, it's like you no longer look at it as a flaw. It's just like an aspect of you. And then you're able to see like that there's actually many aspects of you. And now you have the tools to be able to move past it and live in the higher, like the higher octave of that, like what you would see as a flaw.
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, total sense. Yeah, total sense.
Which helps self-love and self-appreciation and recognition too.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why it is important to look after your own energy, because when you're looking at these tools and your energy isn't well looked after, it's easy to see the flaws. It's easy to twist it in a way that isn't supportive. And we see so many astrologers that say it very cutthroat, right? And
Yeah.
it can take a negative spin. And that's why I really think looking at these tools with an empowerment kind of lens on can be really supportive. And it doesn't take away of the hard energies that come, but it just allows you to move with them a little bit more
Mm. It
like,
makes you more malleable. Malleable.
yeah,
I don't know
malleable.
how to say that word.
Yeah. I know exactly the word you're talking about, but I can't say it either.
Yeah, you can like soften into it and accept it. And that's a big thing because I feel like we don't actually, whether it's like trauma or hurt or like, you know, if you're in mourning or if you're, you know, all of those like lower frequency states that you can feel and move through, it's really difficult. You actually have to kind of accept it on like to some degree. You don't have to think that it's right, but you kind of have to soften and surrender into the acceptance of that thing to be able to move through it. Otherwise, you kind of take a detour and then like up the road, you're like, oh, fuck, there it is again, waiting for me to deal with it.
Yep, literally, literally.
It like allows you, I feel like astrology allows you just to deal with your shit and
Yeah.
like not see it as shit, see it as, it puts like a spin on stuff too. Like I find that what we view as flaws or like negative things that we do is actually like there's a gift in there too, waiting to be unlocked and to be stepped into, which is so beautiful. It's so helpful.
Yeah, and I feel like that's Saturn all in one thing, right? Saturn gets such a bad rep, but
Yeah.
like it can really teach you where your strengths lie later in life and how to move through the challenges. And yeah, I think it's so important. And so following the astrology seasons has been really, really helpful for me lately because I notice myself moving into them automatically. It's actually usually about a week before that I start to like prep my energy, and I don't even notice I'm doing it unless I journal and I look back. I'm like, oh, that was Virgo season coming. But it helps me just move through it and really focus on what wants to come up. Because otherwise, if we try and take care of all of the various aspects of our life all in 1 month, 3 months, however long, it can be really overwhelming. And
Yeah.
I love having these seasons to really reflect and anchor into, this is what I'm going to focus on for the minute, and really dive in. Yeah, and dedicate myself to that. And I find that you're doing that too, especially with your cleanse at the moment. Like, really working on the body and focusing on your health in a whole new way. It's really cool to see that like came up right as Virgo season was
I
coming
know,
through.
right? Like how predictable. Virgo does a detox in Virgo season. And you know what? That was totally like, it's not like I was like, oh, it's Virgo season, let's do a detox.
Mhm.
Like you said, I was feeling in and tapping into the Virgo energy without even being conscious of
Yeah.
that I was doing that. I was like, okay, I need to cleanse. I need to just reset and recalibrate. Let's do a month long detox. And then I'm like, oh wow, it's Virgo season. They're
Surprise,
separate
surprise.
spots, which is just wild.
Yeah.
And we also have a Mercury retrograde coming up. We're in the
Yeah.
shadow phase, which is another thing. I feel like, as you said, people view like Saturn, Mercury retrograde, Chiron, like all of these things in the astrological world as such negative things. And as you said to me the other day, I actually don't mind Mercury retrograde. I'm like, neither do I. It's such an introspective time.
Yeah. Yeah, and I find that if you actually do have Mercury in retrograde in your natal chart, your retrogrades might be some of the time that you do your best work. Like, obviously, things like, yes, technology may stuff up at times and things may not go to plan. Like, that's predictable Mercury retrograde energy. But for me, that's when my flow is like turned all the way on. And it's just an invitation for me to clean out my computer hardware, like, actually look at what technology I'm using in my life. Do I need to upgrade it? Do I need to let it go? How am I talking and communicating at the moment? Do I need to check my texts more than once? Like all of these different things. And if you're frustrated with the energy, of course it's going to be frustrating, right? Like, of course it's going to be hard to move through. But yeah, I don't mind it that much, to be honest.
Yeah, I always see the light, which is funny. I always see the light in Mercury retrograde. So I enjoy it. I don't enjoy it, as you said, the technological part, but everything else is great.
Yeah, we'll
Like
just have to make sure our flow is really on point for the podcast.
Yeah,
Because
exactly.
we started this podcast in Mercury retrograde. Like, I'm pretty
Yes,
sure we started recording there.
we did. And then we had to re-record the whole first episode.
Yep. And we were like, this freaking sucks, but it was a good test run. We made it.
Yeah, that's a good way to start. Start it like as bad as it's going to get and then work your way backwards.
Exactly. Look at us go. Look at how far we've come.
Oh, be prepared, guys. The next episode.
It'll be clunky.
A few loose bolts and screws.
But you know what? I remember we had the most amount of fun recording because every time something fucked up, we would just crack up laughing. And we probably took 3 times as long to record anything only because we were laughing so hard. Like, it wasn't even the technology, let's be real. It was the own fact that we were just laughing at the situation.
And I think that was the best blooper reel that we ever posted too.
Yeah.
Like, my sister messaged me and she's like, I can't stop watching it. It's so funny. Like, I've watched this about 78 times. And then it was a few weeks ago and she was like, do you know that I still get on the DH page and watch the bloopers because it make me feel so much joy and they're so funny. It's like, bless.
That's so funny. Oh, I feel the
So
same.
funny.
I watched that like a million times.
Just our derp moments.
Honestly, they'll be coming around a lot more now. That's all right.
Yeah, prepare yourself, everyone.
Well, this has been so good. I hope that everybody listening got maybe some inspiration for Virgo season. I hope that you found some comfort in us just sharing the truth of what's happening at the moment. And I mean, I just pray that you can walk away knowing that it's okay to be on a roller coaster of emotions. Like, we are human and you can hold polarity. And there are so many ways that you can move through that. And of course, our page is so open to sharing these stories with one another. And I encourage you to speak your truth more than ever, even in the midst of Mercury retrograde. And yeah, show up for yourself in a deeper way.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Everything you just said.
Oh, yay. Well, we are actually also on Apple Podcasts now. So you can find us not only on Spotify and YouTube, but Apple Podcasts. It has been a very long journey, but we are here. We are ready for your ears to absorb us. And we will see you next week. Sending so much love and appreciation to all of you. Bye, guys.